Hey guys, it's Kyle Thompson here with eXp Realty, bringing you another monthly market update, and this week we'll be focusing on all property types. Let's dive right in. Okay, starting off big picture. Last month, we had 353 new listings, 141 new sales. The average list price was $632,138. The average sale price was $613,003. Average sale price to list ratio was 96.45. Average days on market was just shy of 51, and we ended the month with an inventory of 738. So let's take a look at what that does for the market conditions. As always, I would like to use both the monthly supply of inventory method as well as the sales to new list ratio, as I find using both measures gives a more complete picture of what's going on in the market. With that said, using the monthly supply of inventory method, we came in at 4.81, which puts us into a neutral market. If we use the sales to new list ratio instead, we came in at 40%, which is technically a neutral market. However, it is right on the cusp of becoming a buyer's market. Now, let's take a look at the active inventory last month. In February, we had a big spike in new listings, rising from 255 in February all the way up to 353 in March. New sales also ticked up month over month, rising from 119 up to 142. Expireds, on the other hand, was essentially flat, rising from 33 to 34 month over month. However, the benchmark price for a home in Kamloops rose $12,900 from $576,100 up to $589,000 even. Now, let's take a look at the end of month inventory. We ended February with an inventory of 738, which is about 6.36% above the trailing 10-year average for February of 694. Currently, we're sitting about middle of the road when looking over the last 10 years. If we take a look at the new listings instead, we see that so far year to date, there have been 903 new listings in Kamloops, which is about 7.69% above the trailing 10-year average of 839. Currently, this is the third highest amount of new listings year to date when looked at over the last 10 years. Now let's take a look at new sales instead. So far, year to date, there's been 371 new sales in Kamloops, which is about 22% below the trailing 10-year average of 475. Currently, we are one sale above the worst year in the last decade when looking year to date. Now, let's take a look at the sales dashboard, starting off with the average sale price. This table is measuring year-over-year changes, so a full year over a full year. And when looked at that way, prices are actually up 3.08%, rising from $635,000 and change to $655 in change, with most property types being up when measured year over year, with the exception of manufactured homes and parks and recreational dwellings. But recreational dwellings only have 2 sales, so that's an easy number to skew. Now let's jump over and take a look at the sale to list price ratio. So all this is a measurement of how much properties are selling on average below the list price, and it's a good proxy for how much negotiating room you have when you are the buyer. With that said, last month the sale to list price ratio fell about 0.6%, meaning that there is more negotiating room on average when you are the buyer. Now let's take a look at sales by property type. Once again, this table is a full year over a full year, and when looked at that way, sales are down about 2.07%, falling from 1,883 down to 1,844. It's a bit of a mixed bag for which ones are doing well and which ones are not. If you would like to take a closer look, feel free to pause the video. I'm going to move on to average days on market, starting off with the 10-year. So far, year to date, it's taken an average of 60 days for properties to sell, which is about 8.7% above the trailing 10-year average of 55. If we look at the trailing 12 months instead, we see that last month, average days on market fell again, falling from 59 down to 51, and currently we are sitting about 5.4% below the trailing 12-month average of 54. Finally, let's take a look at days on market by property type. This graph is measuring a full year over a full year again, and when looked at that way, Most properties are within 10% of where they were sitting the year prior, with the exception of townhomes, which are taking 11.55% longer to sell, and manufactured homes, which are taking about just higher than 34% longer to sell on average. So, to sum things up, we're in a neutral market, inventory has been building, sales have been picking up, however, we are still well below the 10-year trends. Prices, on the other hand, have been holding in fairly well. There is slightly more negotiating room when you are the buyer, and days on market is a bit of a mixed bag depending on how you look at it. Overall, we're in a balanced market with a few interesting shifts. That's all we have for today. I really hope that you guys are continuing to get value out of these market updates. If you are, please consider liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And as always, if there's anything you want added to these market updates, or maybe something that needs to be more thoroughly explained, please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below, or reach out to me directly, and I will do what I can. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.